Rafe Calder had been dragged out of bed by worse alarms before, but none had ever sounded like a diplomatic officer trying very hard not to panic. The comm on his wall pulsed in an accusing shade of red and repeated the same sentence every 30 seconds. You have been summoned by Her Radiant Sovereign of the Velar Dominion for immediate emergency technical assistance. He tried pretending to be asleep. The comm increased volume. He tried hiding under a blanket. The comm projected the message directly through the fabric. Eventually, he gave up and muttered that if this ended with him being eaten, he wanted it known that he resisted bravely for at least 3 minutes. The shuttle that collected him smelled faintly of mint and existential dread, and the Valyrian pilot never blinked once. Rafe stared at her long, curved ears, wondering if they were aerodynamic or just excellent for hearing human fear. He tried to crack a joke about having never met royalty before. She responded with a single nod that suggested royalty had never met anything quite as disappointing as him, either. When the flagship appeared, it didn't glide into view so much as ripple into space, expanding like a blooming metallic flower that had read too many horror stories. Rafe tried not to yelp. He failed. Inside, the corridors shifted subtly, like they were trying to decide which direction he should walk and disagreeing with themselves. The walls hummed as though gossiping about his posture. Rafe told himself it was fine. Lots of alien vessels were semi-sentient. It wasn't judging him. Probably. A bioluminescent guide node floated past his ear and then bumped into his forehead, as if unimpressed with his reflexes. He muttered an apology to a piece of technology. It ignored him. He was escorted into the throne hall, which was less a hall and more a cathedral grown by a meticulous architect who had been given too much caffeine. The alien queen stood in the center, tall, regal, her long ears sweeping back like elegant sails. Her expression contained the amused patience of someone who already knew the punchline to a joke he hadn't told yet. "Human technician Rafe Calder," she said, her voice warm and sly. "You arrive with admirable speed or admirable confusion. I accept either." He bowed so stiffly, he worried his spine would file a complaint. "Why, Your Radiance, I understand you have a technical problem." "A very small problem," she said. "In the sense that it is small enough to fit inside a reactor core, but large enough to annihilate this entire fleet if sneezed at improperly." Rafe blinked. Does the reactor sneeze? The Queen's eyes glittered. Only when someone inexperienced touches the wrong filament. He seriously considered running back to the shuttle. But the Queen gestured toward a group of engineers, tall Valyrians with long ears and expressions, suggesting they had bet money on whether he would faint. One of them handed him a data slate. Another handed him a glove. A third handed him what looked suspiciously like a snack. Rafe wasn't sure if it was encouragement or preparation for his funeral rites. The malfunctioning core chamber was a cavern of shimmering membranes and crystalline conduits twisting like nervous vines. Each pulse of energy looked sentient. Each flicker of light seemed to whisper, "Don't mess up." Rafe activated his translator and knelt beside the primary filament cluster, muttering, it's fine, it's just alien biotech that reacts badly to fear." "I fear nothing." The core emitted a low rumble. One of the Valyrian engineers called out, "It dislikes dishonesty." Rafe cleared his throat loudly. "Okay, I fear most things, especially glowing ones." Fortunately, technical problems didn't care about dignity. He quickly identified the misaligned bioconductive junction, something that behaved like a cross between a nerve ending and a very stubborn mushroom. With careful calibration, a few improvised stabilizers, and a gentle scolding of the ship's interface, which seemed to pout in response, Rafe coaxed the system back into balance. Lights steadied. The chamber's hum shifted to something that felt almost relieved. One of the engineers gasped. Another whispered that humans might actually be useful after all. The last one asked if all humans talked to machinery like it was moody livestock. When Rafe stepped back into the throne space, the Queen smiled in that way royalty smiles right before making an announcement that ruins someone's afternoon. "You have succeeded," she said. "The flagship is stable. The Dominion is indebted." Rafe rubbed the back of his neck. "Happy to help, really. I'll just head back to my shuttle and..." Nonsense, she interrupted. A debt of this magnitude must be honored with appropriate ceremony. He froze. Ceremony, like a medal ceremony. Handshake, maybe a discount voucher for the gift shop. The Queen laughed softly, and the sound vibrated through the hall like warm ripples. No, human. Our traditions are more meaningful, more binding, more consequential. The guards straightened. The engineers grinned. Rafe's stomach gave up entirely. She stepped closer, lowering her voice as though confiding something mischievous. You shall receive a prize worthy of the life you have preserved. A prize that ensures your place among the Velar. Rafe swallowed. That sounds big. It is, she said. You will meet her shortly. Meet her. The Queen only smiled wider. The corridor guided him again, as if the ship itself were eager to deliver him to whatever destiny the Queen had in mind. Rafe wasn't sure whether to be honored or terrified. He tripped once. The wall steadied him with a gentle push, which was somehow more unsettling. Eventually, he was led into a quiet chamber glowing with soft indigo light and the scent of metallic blossoms. Someone stood with her back to him, long ears catching the light as they curved elegantly behind her head. She turned. Her eyes were bright, intelligent, faintly amused, because of course the ship had probably already told her everything he had done, including the part where he apologized to the reactor. She looked human except for her striking ears, so expressive they seemed to twitch with every shift of thought. She gave him a slow once-over, unimpressed but curious. So, she said, voice smooth, you are the human who poked the core until it behaved. Rafe blinked helplessly. I prefer the term calibrated. Her mouth twitched. It prefers the term poked. Before he could reply, she stepped closer, those long ears angling with a mixture of judgment and interest. My name is Lysera. The Queen told me you would be arriving. She says you are the prize. Rafe nearly choked. Wait, I thought I was getting the... He pointed at her, then at himself, then at the ceiling, which offered no moral support. Lysera smiled, and it was not unkind, just deeply entertained. No, human, you will understand soon. The Queen has plans for us both. Rafe stared at her, frozen between awe and panic. Lysera's ears flicked lightly. This, she said, is going to be interesting. Rafe's brain insisted that none of this was his fault. And yet here he was, walking beside Lysera through a corridor that rearranged itself every 5 steps like an indecisive maze. She moved with effortless grace, her long ears pivoting subtly as if listening to the ship's moods. Meanwhile, Rafe tripped twice, apologized to a wall panel, and tried very hard not to think about the Queen's ominous phrasing. You shall meet her shortly. He finally worked up the courage to speak. So, prize... Lysera didn't look at him. Yes, I'm the prize. No, she said calmly, I am. He blinked so hard his eyes watered. Why? Because the Queen decided so. She gave him a sideways glance. You fix the flagship, that matters. The Dominion honors those who protect it, even if they are human, he offered. Clumsy, she corrected. They entered a circular chamber lined with translucent membranes that displayed moving symbols, pulses of energy, fragments of glowing data. Lysera touched one with her fingertips, and it expanded into a floating schematic of the flagship's core systems. She pointed to the center. The malfunction you fixed, not an accident. Rafe stepped closer. Someone sabotaged it. Someone stupid, she said. They attempted to destabilize the energy flow without understanding how the biofilaments react to stress. Right, Rafe said. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that your technology is basically a nervous cat made of quantum vines. Lysera's ears twitched in what might have been amusement. That is an oversimplification. It hissed at me. You provoked it. I breathed. Exactly. She moved a hand through the projection, isolating the corrupted data pathways. The Queen asked me to investigate, and now she expects you to assist. He stared. Assist me. In an investigation of a crime on a living alien ship full of long-eared geniuses who think I'm a barely ambulatory hazard. Yes, she said, because you solved the first problem. And because the Queen believes your presence is significant. Rafe hesitated. Does she always decide people's destinies without asking them? Lysera didn't miss a beat. Yes. Should I be worried? Absolutely. She didn't smile. but her ears angled in a way that made him suspect she enjoyed his suffering. Before he could respond, the chamber dimmed and the ship emitted a low chime, like a polite alarm trying to remain stylish. Lysera flicked her eyes upward. There's another disturbance, secondary conduit. Rafe groaned. Great, I love conduits, they only attack me half the time. They only attack those who handle them incorrectly. See, half the time. She led him into an access corridor that narrowed the farther they went, forcing Rafe to duck under branching cables that pulsated with warm blue light. Lysera didn't duck. She simply glided through, her ears brushing the cables in a way that made them glow brighter. Rafe attempted the same and immediately got zapped. Ow, what was that for? They respond to familiarity, she said. You have none. I have plenty. I fixed your core. You poked it. She knelt beside the junction ahead, a cluster of crystalline nodes arranged in delicate patterns. Several pulsed irregularly, like angry fireflies. See the dissonance? She said. Rafe crouched beside her. I see a pile of glowing rocks ready to ruin my day. Then you see correctly. She handed him a diagnostic tool that looked suspiciously like a tuning fork fused with a squid. Stabilize the rhythm. If you're imprecise by even a fraction, it explodes. No, it emits a blinding flash of light and a deafening shriek. That's worse. He took a steadying breath, focused on the pulsing nodes, and tapped the tool gently. The vibrations traveled through the network, aligning each flicker until the entire cluster hummed in calm resonance. Lysera watched him with a thoughtful expression. You adapt quickly. He shrugged. I grew up repairing mining modules that tried to crush you if you tightened the wrong bolt. Fear is a good teacher. Her ears angled forward. Is that why you talk so much? To hide your fear? No, he said defensively. I talk so much because silence gives me space to imagine catastrophic outcomes. That makes sense. It does. Catastrophic outcomes are statistically common around you. They moved deeper into the conduit network, the air thick with the tang of charged energy. Lysera paused beside a sealed hatch etched with flowing symbols. She pressed her palm to the surface, and it peeled open like a blooming petal. Inside, Rafe saw a swirling mass of data ribbons hovering around a central sphere. But some of those ribbons were frayed, flickering, infected with a foreign signal. There, Lysera said. The source of the sabotage. Rafe stepped closer. Can we fix it? Yes, but we'll need to isolate the corrupted threads manually. He grimaced. Define manually. She gestured at the swirling ribbons. We reach in. Into the digital tentacle storm? Yes. Fantastic. She went first, sliding her hands into the flowing data like it was water. The ribbons parted for her, reacting to the subtle movements of her fingers and ears. Rafe followed, slower, and the ribbons wrapped around his wrists like curious snakes. One flicked his cheek. It likes you, Lysera said. Is that good? Not particularly. Together they traced the corrupted threads, carefully separating each one. The moment Rafe tugged a defective strand free, the sphere pulsed violently. Is it supposed to do that? He asked. No, Lysera said. Then why is it doing that? Because you touched something important. Why does this keep happening to me? You are gifted. That is a lie. The pulse intensified. Lysera grabbed his wrist and pulled his hand free. The sphere calmed instantly. She stared at him, her ears angled in bewilderment. You shouldn't have been able to influence the central node like that. Is that bad? It is unusual. She studied him so closely he forgot how to breathe for a moment. The Queen suspected something like this. Suspected what? Lysera didn't answer. Instead, she touched the node with her palm, sealing the repaired system. Then she turned to him. Our task isn't finished. There may be additional sabotage attempts. Great, he said, because nothing says fun like almost being fried by alien data spaghetti. Your resilience is admirable. So is my suffering. She led him out of the chamber, the ship glowing brighter around them, as though acknowledging their progress. But Rafe noticed something new. Whenever he passed certain panels, they flickered faintly in response. As if recognizing him, as if greeting him, Lysera noticed too. The ship is responding to you, she said quietly. It shouldn't do that. Why not? Because you are not Valyrian. He swallowed. Is that going to be a problem? Her ears lowered fractionally. I don't know. They walked in silence until the corridor widened into a viewing chamber overlooking the stars. The queen waited for them, hands folded, expression unreadable. You have done well, she said. Lysera bowed. Rafe tried to bow but accidentally dropped his tool. It bounced. The queen pretended not to notice. We have identified the saboteur's method, Lysera said, but not the individual. The queen nodded slowly. Then you must continue together. The bond between you is essential now. Rafe felt his pulse jump. Bond? Lysera's ears twitched sharply. The queen smiled. Yes, the prize I granted is not symbolic. It is the beginning of a long connection between your lives. Rafe stared helplessly at Lysera. Lysera stared helplessly at the queen. The ship hummed like it was enjoying the drama. The queen added softly, from this point on, neither of you walks this path alone. Rafe exhaled. Great, no pressure. Lysera's ears flicked. There will be plenty. Rafe woke to the soft vibration of the flagship humming under his feet, a steady pulse that felt almost like breathing. The guest quarters the queen had assigned him were comfortable in a disturbingly organic way. He'd made the mistake of complimenting the walls once, and they had spent the next hour gently reshaping themselves to please him. This morning they had formed a shelf that looked suspiciously like a smile. He ignored it. He had bigger problems. Lysera arrived without knocking, as usual. Her long ears twitched with brisk irritation, which Rafe had learned meant either something was wrong or she found him mildly amusing. The queen wants us in the central synthesis bay, she said. Apparently the sabotage escalated during the night. Rafe groaned. Why can't problems ever de-escalate? Why can't they politely decide it's not worth it and go home? Lysera walked in, ignoring his dramatics. There was another attempt to destabilize the biocore, but this time the system countered on its own. He blinked. On its own. Does the ship fix itself normally? No, she said, eyes narrowing. But this ship interacted with you yesterday. It may have learned something. Rafe's immediate instinct was to deny responsibility, but then a panel beside him flickered cheerfully. Lysera raised a brow. Yes, she said dryly, something. The walk to the synthesis bay took them through corridors glowing with unusual brightness, lights rippling like waves. Rafe had a sinking feeling the ship was wagging its metaphorical tail at him. The bay itself was vast, filled with floating conduits and holographic strands of energy weaving through the air like living equations. The queen stood at the center, her posture regal, her expression troubled. You arrive, she said. Good. Observe. A projection unfolded above them, showing a recording of the previous night's disturbance. Filaments in the core thrashed violently until a human-shaped silhouette, rendered by the ship's sensor interpretation, touched the unstable junction. The chaos calmed instantly. Rafe stared. Is that supposed to be me? The ship thinks so, Lysera said, not hiding her skepticism. The queen's gaze sharpened. The flagship is the oldest of our living vessels. It bonds slowly, painfully, and yet in the span of 2 cycles it has accepted you. It listens to you. Rafe tried to laugh it off. Well, I'm flattered, I think. This is not flattery, the queen said. It is unprecedented. Before Rafe could panic, an alarm blared, low, metallic, urgent. Lysera spun toward the nearest console. There's movement in the lower conduit field. Unauthorized access. It's the saboteur. The queen stepped back. Go, both of you. End this. Rafe hesitated. Your radiance, just to be clear. When you say end this, you don't mean. I mean capture them, she said. Not disintegrate them. Right, Rafe said. Good. Because I left my disintegrator in my other pants. Lysera dragged him by the sleeve before he could embarrass himself further. They sprinted through the corridors, guided by the ship's pulsing lights. The vessel seemed almost eager, panels opening before them, pathways shifting into shortcuts as if the ship itself were pointing the way. Lysera noticed. It's helping you, she said, breathless. It shouldn't know how. Rafe didn't answer because the corridor suddenly widened into the lower conduit field. Rows of energy channels and crystalline membranes, all trembling with the residue of intrusion. In the middle stood a tall Valyrian figure, cloaked in dark synth fiber, long ears angled low with frustration. Lysera stiffened. "Terran." Rafe whispered, "You know him." "Former systems architect," she said. "He disappeared months ago." I assumed he'd been exiled, not sabotaging the flagship. Her ears lowered. "He taught me half of what I know." "Great," Rafe muttered. "Always fun when villains come with emotional baggage." Terran glared at them. "You should not have come. Especially you, human. The Queen's obsession with your presence is dangerous." Rafe threw his hands up. "I didn't ask to be obsessed over." "The ship chose you," Terran snapped. "It should have chosen one of us, a Valyrian. Not an off-worlder with accidental luck and a death wish." "That is unfair," Lysera said sharply. "His luck is not accidental." Rafe blinked. "Thank you, I think." Terran raised a device, something like a crystallized disruptor, and slammed it into a nearby junction. Filaments shrieked, the conduits brightening in a painful flare. Lysera rushed forward. Rafe followed without thinking, grabbing a stabilizer module from the wall as though the ship had offered it to him deliberately. "Terran!" Lysera shouted. "Stop, you'll tear the ship apart." "That is the point," Terran snarled. "The Queen needs to be reminded that her rule isn't infallible." Rafe stepped between them before Lysera could attack. "Okay, look, I get it. Royalty is stressful. We've all had days where we want to unplug something important. But maybe not the gigantic living spaceship full of innocent people." Terran's glare deepened. "You do not understand our world." Rafe sighed. "I barely understand your doorways, but I understand sabotage never fixes anything." He crouched beside the damaged conduit. The ship whimpered, an actual trembling sound, and Rafe felt a strange instinct, like the circuitry was calling him by name. He pressed both hands to the membrane. Energy surged through his fingertips but didn't burn. Instead, it responded, aligning itself around his touch. Lysera stared. "Rafe, how are you doing that?" "I'm not," he said, voice shaking. "It's doing it." The conduit steadied, humming in soft relief. Terran stumbled back, disbelieving. "Impossible. The ship doesn't bond to outsiders. It doesn't bond to anyone but—" Rafe stood. Maybe it just liked being poked the right way. Lysera groaned. "Do not phrase it like that." Terran made one last attempt to strike the core, but Lysera intercepted him with swift precision. The disruptor clattered away, and Rafe tackled the conduit controls, sealing the system before more damage could spread. When security arrived minutes later, Terran was disarmed, Lysera breathing hard, and Rafe covered in glowing dust he pretended was normal. The Queen met them in the upper hall. Her gaze lingered on Terran being escorted away, then shifted to Rafe and Lysera. "It is done," she said softly. Lysera nodded. "The ship is stable. It bonded to him." The Queen approached Rafe with a mix of wonder and something gentler. "The flagship has accepted you as a partner in its cycle. The Dominion owes you more than gratitude." Rafe rubbed his neck. "I didn't exactly plan any of this." "No one plans destiny," the Queen said. "It finds those who act with courage." Lysera stepped closer, her long ears softening. "You changed the outcome of an entire fleet with your presence, and your ridiculous commentary." "That's my primary skill set," he said. She smiled, an actual smile, subtle but unmistakable. "It grows on me." The Queen looked between them, amused. "Your bond begins now. You will work together, learn together, and serve as the bridge between our people. This is the prize you earned." Rafe exhaled slowly, not fearfully,